Saturday is upon us. That means college football is here. Welcome to another Cruel Fan video. I'm your host, Matt Lively. Tons of great stuff to get to in this little episode here. Week 10 in college football actually wasn't so interesting. There was one big upset. That was Michigan State. They were ranked third. They lose, and now they drop all the way out of the top four. And so we'll get to all that in the latter half of this video. But I want to discuss something that always comes up this time of year, and it's the hot seat. Coaches are really at this point just trying to survive if their teams are struggling. And there are three coaches in particular that I think are burning up from below. We've already seen some crazy stuff happen. We saw Ed Orgeron be announced that he won't be coming back next season. We saw Matt Wells get fired at Texas Tech. We just saw one of Baylor's top assistants leave to go to Texas Tech in what was a great move for the Red Raiders. So we're seeing more midseason coaching changes than we ever had before. And now we're getting to that point in the year where we might see a couple more coaches get fired towards the end of the season. And then three coaches that I would certainly be on the lookout for. Scott Frost, Nebraska. He's already unloaded some of his coordinators trying to pin a scapegoat on what's gone wrong this season, because a lot has gone wrong this season. So Scott Frost is a guy that at Nebraska had huge expectations leaving UCF. He has not hit that at his alma mater. Nebraska was one of those programs that was a powerhouse, a giant, and now they just aren't, and their fans still expect them to be. I don't think they're going to fire Scott Frost. I think if you look at what Jim Harbaugh has done at Michigan once he was on the hot seat, maybe Nebraska takes that approach, but I think his seat is hot. I'm not sure if they make a coaching change. Dan Mullen at Florida is next, another program, giant. Not so much anymore. Mullen's had some decent seasons at Florida, certainly getting them in a couple SEC championships games. But when you look at the last year and a half, getting smoked by Oklahoma in a bowl game, having this year be really flatlined, that's concerning on the field, but it's what's been happening off the field that's even worse. One player singing the fight song after a game while the rest just leaves. Him making excuses consistently in press conferences. I'm not sure Dan Mullen has the backing of the fan base anymore, and that's when coaches get absolutely ridiculed, and that's when the firings come. And then finally, Herm Edwards, Arizona State. That seems like a gimme to me. I'm not actually sure that the entire athletic department is safe at ASU. Herm this season had a team that should have been a Rose Bowl contender. They have continued to fail time and time again. They have flatlined when they needed a win, and they are not disciplined. Maybe that's the most disappointing and interesting part of the situation in Tempe, is the fact that that team just has no discipline for a coach who's now been there for 4 seasons. And that's a complicated issue because his former agent, Ray Anderson, is the athletic director at ASU. So what happens? Will Ray actually fire one of his best buddies? It doesn't seem likely unless Ray is gone as well. So with that being said, let's look at week 11. Those coaches certainly needing wins in this week. It's a critical week as we're now 2 weeks into the college football playoff selections. A whole new top 4 here. We had Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State rounding out the top 4 now. I'm still not sold on Ohio State and Oregon towards the back end of that. And they're teams that could easily lose on any given week. So a lot is still to be determined. I think the Big Ten is probably the biggest key to this because you have teams like Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State who are all sitting in the same boat. The only difference is that Michigan State has the upper hand over Michigan, but the playoff committee doesn't see it like that for whatever reason, even though they have the head-to-head win. So there are 2 games that I'm really looking forward to with that being said. Penn State, Michigan. I think Penn State is, I'm shocked they're not ranked, honestly, just because they're playing Michigan. They want this to look more impressive for Michigan. They're ranked 6th right now. If they win, why are they out and Ohio State is in? That's the big question. It's being played in Happy Valley. I think Penn State pulls the upset, and that will really throw a wrench into the plans if Ohio State stumbles. The second one is the really only hope for the Big 12 to stay alive. Oklahoma, still undefeated. They're taking on Baylor in Waco. That's a tough game for them to come into this house and play. Baylor playing really well. Obviously, they lose to TCU last week, but that's a trap game written all over it. This is still a very good ball club. I think if Baylor's able to take down Oklahoma, now we really have, I don't know what happens at that point. So many questions. And my bet of the week, I like Rice. It's random. I like Rice, but they're getting 18.5 at home against Western Kentucky. That's too many points. 18.5? Western Kentucky? 18.5? No, give me Rice. So that is week 11 in a nutshell. Should be a good one. Hoping for some upsets as always and hoping for Rice to cover. We'll talk to you next week.